Hello everybody, it's Larry and welcome to today's video, and we're excited to share with you today the ball and pattern tool beta. The link's down in the description below and you can begin using it as early as right now. Now I hope you'll stay and watch the video, and if you do, we're going to talk about some of the great features of this tool and why I think that it's going to be your go-to tool in your toolkit for determining how someone is related to you using the centimorgans. Now, one of the features that it has the age component where you enter your age, and it's going to keep you laser focused on where to look based on your age or the age of the person you're helping. It's also going to show you, of course, the ball and pattern information, but you notice that it has single path, dual path, and also multipath. I told you we would introduce the effects of endogamy and multi-marriage and pedigree collapse, those kind of things, and accommodate those in the results. And it also is going to have a chart that pulls up, and then sometimes the chart will be slightly different than what you're going to see predicted in the ball and pattern, and it gives you another way to laser focus in on exactly where you want to be. And we're going to talk a little bit more about multipaths and show you some discoveries I had since the last video I did when I told you I had quadruple path second cousins. Well, I've got some surprises even on that. So that's what's going to be in this video. Here we go. Let's get right to it. The first thing you do is you enter your age. Now, the reason is when you do that, you get a probability map based on your age. It goes from 50. Now you can go down, a younger generation. You can be in your 90s. Or for me, like I said, the default is here. I'm at 60 years old. Well, actually just under 60 years old. This is my probability map. Okay, I'm 58 years old. This is my probability map. This keeps me laser focused. It's here in this darker area, this green area right here. And all my DNA matches are going to be right in here. Now, yellow is here, more of a courtesy for those rare, extra, super exceptional things. Now, we're talking not 1% exception. We're talking about 1% of 1% kind of thing, like more likely not to be than even a possibility of it happening, but it's there. And we'll talk about that also at a later point in the video. So this keeps you laser focused on where to look. Now, other than that, it's as simple as any other tool. You simply enter the centimorgan. So here we go. We enter 3400, and there's the chart that I was telling you about. So here are the two kinships. Now, you notice these are exactly the same. That's because they're called reciprocal kinships, and that means that if you have a parent, well, that means they've had a child, or they wouldn't be a parent. They'd just be people. And a child, if they make a match, then they have to have a parent, and those are reciprocal. Just like every grandparent has a grandchild, and every grandchild has a grandparent. Every aunt or uncle has a niece or nephew, and vice versa. So these are called reciprocal relationships. Now you notice, again, at 3400, it's going to be a parent or a child. Now, yes, if you do certain testing companies and in the right conditions, such as identical twins, yes, you could have that exception in there that's siblings, but it's not likely. It's not in the 99%. All right? But if you lower this just 100 centimorgans to 3300, guess what happens? The sibling pops in as a possibility right here. But when you look over at the chart, really not so much. It's 1/7 as likely as either one of the others. If you lower it 100 more to 3200, you think, okay, well, it's going to get a little closer. No, it completely flips. In fact, now it's 6 to 1 times more likely that it's the sibling than it is a parent or a child. Okay, so those centimorgans matter even at the high centimorgans. Now we're going to go on down and just show you some of the numbers in here. Here's 1700. And when we look at that, we see these two are the same, reciprocal kinships. These two are the same, reciprocal kinships. So you've got this group, this one here, these, and then this one. And you notice right here, this is the half sibling or single path sibling. And then you've got this one here, it says sibling. This is a dual path sibling. It doesn't show here. And that's because at 1700, you may have it in your documentation that you're a single path sibling. Now, I don't wish a DNA surprise in on anybody. I'm just going to say that if you are a 1700 centimorgan match to a sibling, you have two choices. One, be happy and stop doing genealogy and just go on and be happy with life. Or two, investigate further and deal with the consequences, because it's not going to be exactly what you think it is once you iron it all out. If you think that you're a 1700 full sibling, statistically, that's into the 1% of 1% of 1% likelihood range, and I'll just leave it at there for you to figure out the rest. All right. So if we go on to an 850 centimorgan, you can see right here it says number one most likely is first cousin right here. And then you see this one, the great aunt or uncle, is number two, slightly larger than the half aunt or uncle. So it says great aunt or uncle here. But look, this is in yellow. Okay? I'm not going to look there. Even though this is the second most likely, you have to remember that you can't go by, the purity of numbers on things. You have to take some intelligence in it. Just like we use the intelligence for the generationals and where to stay laser focused. This tells me this is outside my laser focused area. So for this to be here, now this may be true for the superset. For all of the people in the database, that may be the second most likely kinship, okay, for 850 centimorgans. But for it to be a great aunt uncle, it's going to be 1-2 generations above me. If I'm almost 60, that's putting them, 40 to 50 years older than me. That means they're going to be 100 to 110 years old. Again, I don't think that that's the case. If it is, they're going to, when they pass away in a couple of years, be on television as the oldest living human at 112 years old. Now, while they may indeed be 112 years old, they also have to be related to me through that kinship. So basically, the likelihood of this is basically saying that it's just as likely as you being, the great niece or nephew of the oldest person on earth. And they're going to be in the news as that. That's how likely it is that they're in yellow. Just to tell you, no, don't look there. It's a waste of time. The next one it says is half aunt or uncle. So we look here at the single path aunt or uncle, and you're going to be able to find him here. And then after that, the next one is first cousin once removed. It actually introduces the multi-path scenario as the fourth most likely. Well, for me, since this is the second most likely, we're not looking there, the third most likely. Now, I always in my research go yellow, blue, red. And the reason for that is you're always going to have a yellow. You're always going to have a relationship of two people, or you're not going to have any kids, okay? So that's a fact. In order to have a single kinship, in other words, only one, of these common ancestors in common, then that means there had to be an original marriage and then a secondary relationship, which for every secondary means there had to be a primary. So you can have primaries that never had a secondary, and you can have primaries that had a secondary. So this to me is always going to be the more likely. And then, a remarriage through a divorce or remarriage because one of them died, that's going to be a little bit less likely than the original marriage. And then you look at the next one. Okay, so this is single path and this is dual path. You can think of this as quadruple path. So that means there was intermarriages, double marriages, endogamy. There was something in play to make this multi-path become an option. So, this close is fairly rare. You can see that it's pretty low in comparison to the others, but it does start popping up. So now we go out a little bit further. We go out to 425. Well, guess what? It's going to be a little bit higher in here. The first one is first cousin once removed, which is here in yellow. The next most likely here is a second cousin slightly edging out half first cousin. Well, guess what? Second cousin's right here in the multi-path. And then the next one is half first cousin right here. Now, even though in this chart it tells me to go yellow, red, then blue, I still am always going to go normal family unit, remarriage unit, and then multiple marriage or unusual situation. So normal, not as normal, more rare situation, even though that's actually number two, according to the statistics, the second most likely. Now, I want to give you some real world examples of, again, like I said, this is single path, this is dual path. I'm calling this multi-path, but remember, every generation divides by 2, which means the number of paths as you go out a node has to double. This is a single path, it has to double to a dual, and for this one to be the kinship, it's going to have to double the dual, which means a quadruple path. Okay, in order to get here, you're going to have to find 4 or more paths. I say 4 or more. You could have 3 normal paths and then 2 weaker paths that added up to the centimorgans of a singular path. In fact, Ancestry talks about this in their timber methodology, and they started doing weighted centimorgans back in 2015 for anybody that was third cousin and above, because this is very prevalent in their research at third cousin and above. And I'm telling you, it really starts as early as the second cousin. And I'm going to give you an example right now. So we're going to look at my DNA match list. Right here it says second cousin 508, second cousin 488, second cousin 483, second cousin 469, second cousin 467. Okay, so I know this is second cousin. I don't have them flagged there, but I know that they're a second cousin. All of these are second cousins. This is a half first cousin, or a single path first cousin, not at 425, but at 441. It's stronger, and we'll come back to that here in a minute. So we want to go to these, these second cousins, at these high centimorgans. So at 425 level, it was at 467, 468. They're second cousins. I've got them flagged as second cousins. Remember, I talked about in many videos that my grandfather was a Brown, okay? And 3 brothers of the Brown family married 3 sisters of the McFarland family. Now, there wasn't any crossover in DNA, and it wasn't a double marriage, it was a triple marriage between the families. That meant all of the descendants from that marriage group, okay, we didn't share just 2 grandparents in common, like Brown and Clark on the Brown side, or McFarland and Taylor on the McFarland side. We share all 4 of those great-grandparents. That's McFarland, Taylor, Brown, and Clark. I have all of them through my father in relationship to these people, okay? So to show that, I pulled up, their through lines right here, and it shows me. I go to my father, go to Clarence and William Brown, but it's also his wife Caroline Clark, it's also through Dolly McFarland, and it's also through Sarah Taylor. I share all 4 of those grandparents with them. All right, so going up through her mother to John Frederick. Frederick Brown married Uriah Jane McFarland. So I look at John Frederick Brown. Look, he married Uriah Jane McFarland, whose parents were James and Sarah Taylor. The same one that Clarence, he married Dolly McFarland, and Dolly McFarland's parents, again, we'll go ahead and click on her, were James and Sarah Taylor. So I share not 2 paths with them, I share 4 paths with them. So again, here's single path, here's dual path, and you can think of this as quadruple path. Now, I don't want you to call it quadruple path yet. I want you to call it multipath, and I'm going to show you why. So as I was looking at these matches, I noticed this is a 508 and this is 467, 469. So, if I add 40 to this, I'm at 507. So it's 40, 41 more. That's like 10% more. So I'm saying, okay, from here to get down to the second cousin, remember we divide by 2. So this one has 50% of what they're passing on here. They've got 50% of that and 50% of that. So 50, 25, half of 25 is 12. And there's a 10% difference, which means there's almost a full path difference right here. But yet, how? Because all 4 of these great-grandparents are my 4 great-grandparents. Now, there could be some variation in distribution, but really not that close, not that much. Okay, so here is a normal distribution. We're going to talk about normal distributions briefly here. But basically, the law of large numbers, as you increase the sample size, the sample mean will approach the population mean. In simple terms, what that means is the larger the number of the set, the more likely it is to be closer to the mean, or a 50-50 split. So when you get inheritance, you get exactly 50% from your mom and exactly 50% from your dad. Now, I know some people are out there disagreeing with me already. Google it, all right? Just look it up. Any genetic genealogist or geneticist or anybody's going to tell you get exactly 50% from your mom, exactly 50% from your dad. Now, that does not mean you inherited from your grandparents equally and got 25% of each one of your 4 grandparents. Doesn't mean that at all. It means that from your dad and mom, you get half. So think of it like a zipper. All the teeth on one side, that's dad's, and all the teeth on the other side, that's mom. And they connect together, zip together, and form, this stitching that becomes you. Okay? So all the teeth on the left are dad, all the teeth on the right are mom. And so think about it like here. Now I know this is a helix and it flips, so you could technically, this is like these are mom, then these are mom, and then those are mom, and this is dad, and up here's dad, and then over here's dad, that kind of thing. But for simplicity's sake, just imagine all of them on that side are dad, all of them on this side are mom, and for every mom you have a dad link on the other side. It's exactly 50-50. All right. So when it passes from mom and dad, now remember, your mom and dad got their DNA from their parents. All right. So when they pass this along, think about this. You're going to tend to be towards the middle, but look at right here. Let's imagine we divided this down the middle, and this side is your dad. Okay. This is normal, and then you got these, deviations of possibilities, and over here, your mom's side and possibilities. So this is the DNA from mom, and our DNA from dad, and the DNA from mom. And every time you redistribute this, you're getting this random distribution. In this video, there's actually 3,000 balls falling right here. Now you notice the two in the middle were lower and the other two were slightly higher, and it's going to do it again here. And we're going to get another completely different answer set. So now this one here is a little higher, but these were much lower. So every time you do this, you get a different distribution, and that's you, and that's your sisters, brothers, and whatever. But as you notice, even though some of the ball, way here, they tend to gravitate back towards the mean, more fall here than any other place. And so as this says, you're going to get kind of an even distribution from mom and an even distribution from their dad. So this is your grandmother on one side and your grandfather on the other, and it's going to be pretty even. Now you notice slightly more on this one side than on the other side. We're going to pause it right here. Slightly more over here. Okay. Now right in here, there's slightly more on this side, but overall, maybe a little bit more. Now these are lower and these are higher. And that's what I mean. It tends to be towards 50-50. And that is the idea of the central limit theorem. It's going to gravitate towards the middle. It's going to gravitate towards this even distribution, especially the more and more that you look at. All right. So, with that being said, when you're passing it on from your, grandmother and grandfather, in order for it to be, 10% off, this has to shift. And then, remember, there's 4 of them. So we have to roll this 4 times, and it has to be shifted to this side all 4 times by 4 different random rolls by all 4 grandparents as it passed down. And then it would have to shift the opposite way for me than it did for them going down their line. Now, since over time and the more numbers you have, the more it tends to move towards the mean, not away, then that means that there's something else at play here. That means that 10% different, there's something to it. There's something going on to affect that. And I've said that many times, that when you have these large extra, this is larger than 425, there's something else at play just here alone. 425 to 468, that's 43 difference. 425 to 508, that's a very significant difference. There is another path somewhere. Now, you'd say, well, Larry, you look, you go from here and, you've identified it. Here's the path. It goes from her to Pauline to John to all 4 of the grandparents, and it goes to you, to Larkin, and Clarence, and all 4 of those grandparents. You nailed it. There can't be any more. You've nailed all 4. What about my mother? You're like, what about your mother? She's not a Brown, McFarland, or Taylor, or Clark. All right, well, let's check out that theorem. So we're going to go to my mother. We'll go to her shared matches. And we look here. And so for my mother, right here, this one is going to be the Collins and Fitzhugh, which is, one set of her grandparents. And then over here, we've got the Perryman, and that's on her father's side. So we got, Collins, Perryman, Collins, Perryman, Collins, lots more Collins, few Perrymans. And, forgive me for scrolling down here, but look what we get down here at the 39 centimorgans. Look at this. It's the only one of a different color right here so far, McFarland. My mother connects to the McFarland line. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. Look right here. What is this? The Brown line. And so I scroll down some more. I don't see any more. It's all Collins and Taylor. So I'm like, well, is there any more? So now that I know there are, I'm going to come here to groups, And I'm going to look, and I'm going to have to refresh the page because Ancestry didn't like me doing too much too fast. All right, so I'm going to come here and I'll look at the groups. And this McFarland right here with 4, McFarland with 5, those are actually the same. They were 2 different people that I knew were exactly McFarlands. And so I found a total of 5 matches. So my mother has 5 McFarland matches. And she has 3. These people I knew were only Browns that when I was doing the Browns. So she has 3 Brown matches. So after investigation, what I found was going through my mom and up, she matches McFarland's here at the 3rd great grandparent and Brown's at the 5th great grandparent. So I inherited, coming down here, 34, 17, 850, 425, 212 in the McFarland line. And then coming down here, got 212, I can divide again, 106 and 53 down here. And then my mom gave me a split of that amount that she gave to me. So I have it coming through here and I have it coming through my mother as well. So my mom is actually a McFarland and a Brown, and I have not 4 paths here to these people. I have 6 paths to these people. Now, remember I said I had this half first cousin and I would come back to that. So let's go back to my DNA match list. And we're going to scroll on down to there. And we pull up right here. See right here it says 441 and they're a half first cousin. Okay? So they're right here, a single path first cousin. They match me at 441. So we'll put in 441. Okay, make sure that we get all our charts right. All right, so 441. They are a McFarland, and they only match me through McFarland. They have no Brown ancestries. They are a remarriage. Dolly remarried, and they're descendants of Dolly only, where I'm the descendants of Dolly and Clarence. All right? So they're only McFarlands. So she's a 441 when I should expect with, not 125, 425. I should expect a 425. So why do I have a 441? Now, the common thing that everybody does is says, well, that's just the randomness of what's passed along. Well, when you look at the normal distribution and you look at how these fall, doing this over and over, then yeah, it can be, but since there was only 2 distributions, in other words, these balls fell twice, once from her parents to her and once from the grandparents to her mom, and then once from that same intersecting grandparent to my father, and then once to me, then that doesn't leave a lot of opportunities for it to have gone way far from the mean. Because the closer you are, when you get to, shared parents, 50 from each parent, that's a very low probability that it's going to deviate that much. So where is that? Well, if I remember now, my mother also has McFarland and she also has Brown. The Brown didn't matter because she doesn't have a Brown. But she does have McFarland. And so I match her stronger in the McFarlands than I do with the Browns. In fact, I do match the McFarland stronger because my mom matches McFarland's here closer than she does the Brown, and that shows up in another situation. So I come up here and I go to A. Here is my aunt at 1606. Okay, and my aunt has both. She's dual path through Brown and McFarland. And, I don't have to worry about the others here. It's Brown and McFarland. And so she matches both of those, as so do I. But I should be matching her, at 1700. And so she's actually down at the 1606 mark, and it's actually lower. And that's because now, because I know about the integration of my mom, I can say, okay, I know I'm matching this McFarland line stronger. This tells me when she got her distribution, it was off. And she got a proportion of Brown more than McFarland in this passing. And I got a little more of the McFarland in this passing. And then when I add that in with my mom's, then it exaggerated the Browns and McFarland. So when she had the Brown and the other one didn't have the Brown, it kind of sticks out. All right. So this works, this ball and pattern works even with multipathing. So I was able to identify the multipathing with here. And in this case, I have some cousins that are quadruple path, and I also have second cousins that are 6 paths. And guess what? It tells me right here when I look at the chart, first cousin once removed is number 1, and then it says half first cousin, number 2, and then when I look here, the second cousin is actually number 3. So if I did yellow, blue, red, like I said I normally do, I find it on my third look at this data set. And then when I keep examining it, I found the 4. And then when the numbers didn't seem right, I examined it a little harder through the other family member, my mom, and found 2 more paths for a total of 6. And then I saw that with my first cousin that's through the McFarland line, I did see the increase in the McFarland through those lines. So those that came on the other side, on the Brown and the Clark, I didn't see quite as much of the reintegration because my Brown and Clark from my mom's up here. And so that was indicative that it was further back. Okay. So we're going to go on a little more. Let's go out to the 212 level, and you can see right here where it folds. When you get to this point, you start looking a little further. So this is single path, this is dual path, this is multi, but you can think of it as quad if you want for now, but think of it as multi. It's just multi. And then this, if this is single, double, and quadruple, and this is octuple paths. This, you're going to have lots of paths. And that's why Ancestry, like I said, at third cousin, starts doing weighted centimorgans, because they recognize the fact that when they were looking and trying to filter out false positives, that it looks like you just got the normal number of pathings in here, but you've got multiple paths from higher up generations contributing centimorgans. It's close enough to get that inheritance that's getting picked up, and it makes it look like it's here when it's not, and that's why they weight it and move it back so it looks a little further. Okay, so this takes care of all that. It takes care of the multi-paths and endogamy, multiple marriages. Like I said, I gave you an example where it worked with 4 paths, works with 6 paths, was spot on the predictors. This is a really, really handy tool. So go over your data set, go over your DNA matches, put it through there, put it through the test. Let me know what you find down in the description below. This is a beta tool, so if you find things that you recommend that we do to improve it, I think putting a name or a number, putting a number box here for your age is one thing. I think on the chart, having them all go left to right on the histograms, and also putting them in the order from large to small. I think that's something that needs to be done. And the ability to pop up, because if you're my age, this becomes very difficult to read, especially when you get further out and there's a lot more of them. So it becomes quite challenging. The numbers stick out. I mean, look here and here, and then here and here and here. Wouldn't it be nice if they were in an order and then you just had to read across, and maybe it was down this way where these, like human reading were left to right. Yeah, I look at this and I see improvements that I need to make on that. And then lastly, if any of you are colorblind, let me know. These colors that I used, while they were really nice for me, after I was done, I realized this is probably really cruel to somebody that's colorblind, because the number 1 most common colorblindness is like a green-yellow. And this has green and yellow and olive green and a kind of a goldish yellow. And then, the next one, most commons, are dealing with the reds and blues. And then the other 2 are reds and blues. So do I need to have, like I have a checkbox here for the probability map, do I need to have a checkbox, a colorblind mode that puts this in chroma or grayscale? And so if you're colorblind, let me know. Are these far enough apart that it's easily distinguishable, or do I need to change and make these some other colors where you can toggle it back and forth whether you be colorblind or not? So let me know if you're colorblind. Put this against your data for your trees and your DNA mysteries. Let me know. It's going to solve things. Now, I told you that in the week prior to letting this out, I had one person say he solved 3 active cases, and some others did, so 6 active cases in the week before this. Numerous people over the course of the last year have told me they use the ball and pattern and solve things that they've been working on for years. So down in the comments below, when you solve things, when you solve these kinships and use this, how long were you looking at it before you solved it? And put that down in the description below. Was it, you've been looking at it for days, weeks, months, years? How many years? And, what was the breakthrough? What do you think would have made it easier? I mean, this whole thing is about trying to get you to the answer faster. If I would have presented it slightly different, would you have gotten there faster? And if so, in what way? This is a beta tool, but it's production ready. And so it's ready for you to use it. But it does have some things that can be ironed out to make it even better for everybody. So let me know down in the comments below. I'll try to answer every one of them. There you have it. Use it and share it with your friends in your genealogical societies, or just use it yourself and impress them by how fast you're working. No, I'm just kidding. Share it with them too. Anyway, I'll fill you in with some more on this and some other topics really soon. Excited to be back. Enjoy the tool. Links down in the description below. Enjoy, folks. Happy hunting.